I know. I told you to expect the unexpected for eclipse season, but you weren't expecting a tower moment of an episode, were you? What do I mean? Oh, just that today we are sipping tea, yes, but it's tea for tarot. Yes, my darling dears, it is time for us to get to know the cards. I am going to serve lore. I'm going to serve methodology. I'm going to serve symbolism, interpretation, and tell you my hottest take on each and every card. Tea is served, and this time it comes with a spread. Hello, and welcome to AstroloTea with Aliza Kelly. I am your host and your spiritual friend, Aliza Kelly, and I am so happy that you are here. This is our tea party, and you are right on time. How perfect. Every week, I serve you twice. I serve on Wednesdays when we have our tea party, and we gather to talk about different parts of AstroloTea. AstroloTea, huh? Are we talking about astrology? No. AstroloTea, including tea for tarot. Such tea? Yes, we are talking about astrology through the lens of tarot today, which is indeed AstroloTea. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, friends. Great. And then, of course, on Mondays, I always have your weekly brew, and this is where we decode the most pivotal astrological events that shape your life, change your life, rock your world. Plus, I will always spill your personalized horoscope for every single sign, so you'll always know exactly what's in store and how to prepare for the week ahead. Also, a reminder, tickets are selling out to my Haunted Tea Party Spooky Season Astrology Tour. So if you haven't secured your seats yet, honey, don't scare me. I want to see you there. Head over to my website, alizakelly.com/events to find a seat near you in a city near you and come on down. Of course, slap that VIP experience on too so we can have a little sippy sip after the show. I'm going to be heading to Chicago and Minneapolis and then back to New York and then LA and then San Francisco and then Boston, Beverly, right next to Salem on All Hallows Eve. It's going to be so spooky. It's going to be so amazing. Every single show, we are going to have a costume contest, a tea party inspired costume contest, s'il vous plaît. And let me assure you that if this is the only thing you do for spooky season, it will be the only thing you need to do for spooky season. It's that good, okay? It's that tea. You bet it is. So head over to alizakelly.com/events and get your ticket before they say boo, and then they're gone. And of course, thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of our community, part of this AstroloTea podcast. If you haven't already, take a minute to rate, review, and follow the show. This helps other people find their way here. And I also love reading all of your comments and 5-star reviews because they are such tea. Okay, who's ready for this very, very special episode? Show of hands. Fantastic. The tea party begins now. Let's go. Hello, you gorgeous community. 'Tis I, your friend, Aliza. And today we are going to do something a little different, a little avant-garde. Okay, she's an artiste because this week is a little different. We have a lunar eclipse. We're not manifesting, so I figured, why don't we take a closer look at a system that we can work with and spend a little bit of time with the tea that is always right next to the cup of tea, which is tea for tarot. We have a tarot moment every single week as part of our weekly brew. And as I always say, this gives us a different perspective, an adjacent insight into the astrology of the week. Sometimes it's a complementary perspective. Sometimes it's a complicated one. Sometimes I get scared. Sometimes I get excited, but we always love it. And it's not going anywhere because we love the tea for tarot. So since, things are different this week, I figured, hey, why don't we talk about the tarot and spill some tea on this tea? The 78 card system that we know and we love, but it is indeed so esoteric. Yes. That I know some of you baddies may not always know where to start or how to work with it or what it means or where it comes from. And you're like curious. You're curious about tarot, as am I. So today we are going to get into the AstroloTea. We're going to build out this new and improved Library of Alexandria a little bit more with some more mystical steeps. That just I hurt my own feelings here because there was nothing wrong with the Library of Alexandria to begin with. It was perfect. 10 out of 10, no notes. There was no improvements needed. So we're building it back up, I should say. We're trying over. We're trying again. J'adore. We love to see it. We're doing the best we can. Now, I'm sure you know that tarot is one of my absolute favorite forms of magic and mysticism and spirituality and interpretation and art. Maybe you've heard me before say that I see myself as an artist, and astrology is really the way in which I practice that art. And I feel the same with tarot. I feel like when I am speaking the language of tarot, it is another expression of my artistry, and it is something that informs and inspires so much of what I do. In fact, we'll get to it, but the Two of Cups was my visual inspiration for my wedding several years ago. Like visually, when I was thinking about how to sort of create that moment where we were saying our vows and we were exchanging and we were forming this union, like I was imagining and referencing the visual imagery that was on one of these tarot cards. So yes, tarot is infused and informs so much of my life. And obviously, perhaps you know me as an astrologer, right? That is more how I publicly represent myself. But tarot is really a huge part of my practice on a personal level. And then even in my work with clients in the Constellation Club, we're always pulling cards. We are always pulling cards. During retreats, we're pulling cards. I'm pulling cards when I have questions. I'm pulling cards when I want some new sort of inspiration or direction. In fact, when I have had big work projects that I've needed to generate a lot of content for, I've used tarot as a way to help spark new ideas because tarot is in and of itself so layered and so rich, so symbolically powerful that I really feel like this system is such an amazing enhancement to every other aspect of life. It fills in the gaps, it connects the dots, it illuminates very complex situations. It really gives us that richer detail that we're looking for in all aspects of life, whether that is through an astrology reading and looking at your birth chart, or you're trying to think about finding some new ideas for content creation like tea. But it's true. Tarot is applicable to everything. Now, my personal tarot lore is that I actually started to learn how to read these cards just as I was learning astrology. So for me, these two systems have always been hand in hand. Back when I was going through the spiritual breakthrough, when it was all turning on, right? Like all of the switches were turning on. It all came rushing into my life. I was living in Los Angeles. I was in my very early 20s, a child, and I was working in an art gallery because I studied art history in college. And I went out into the world and started to try to find my way in the art world. Long story short, do not recommend that journey, or at least that was not my journey. Or maybe it was the journey that I needed to be on to get here where I am today. But I digress. I was very fortunate to have an amazing colleague at this time who was incredibly instrumental in becoming who I am today. And she was this magical witchy lady, Aquarius sun, Libra rising, Scorpio moon. Well, one afternoon, she was like, Aliza, let's pull some tarot cards. Do you like tarot? And I clutched thy pearls because yes, I like tarot, but I didn't have any tarot cards. I didn't even know how to begin reading these cards. She was like, what do you mean? You don't have a deck? This is a travesty. This is an abomination. She was horrified. So at lunch, she was like, get out of here, get in thy car and get thee to a mystical shop so that you can pick up a tarot deck. So I did. And I wish that I remembered what store this was in Los Angeles because it was this very random shop that popped up on Google Maps that I have not been able to remember the name of basically since. Maybe it just was there and gone just in this moment of time. It was in Century City. It was very nondescript. It was right off of a major road. There was like nothing mystical or dreamy about it. There were no trees on the block. It was very hot. The architecture was very ugly. Like it really felt like very industrial, but like automotive industrial in that Southern California kind of way. Anyway, it was like a mystical / plant shop. And I went in and there were only a few decks there. And I picked out the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, my first deck, and it is indeed the deck that I still use to this day. It's my first deck, it's my first love, and it was getting that deck and purchasing it on that day that truly changed the trajectory of my life, and I'm really not even kidding. I'm not even being hyperbolic. Now, I have heard this thing about needing to be gifted your first tarot deck. What? I didn't know about this at that time, right? Like that was not, Mary Chris didn't say that to me. Mary Chris did not imply that. So I don't know if it was like not as much of a thing in circulation, if it was just not something that was crossing my desk. I didn't know about this superstition until well after I had made the transaction for my very first tarot deck, this Rider-Waite-Smith deck that sits before me to this day. But obviously with this deck that I picked up for myself, I have spent a lot of time with it. I spent many, many years, over a decade with this deck now, with these cards. They're like family to me. And I think that this idea that you have to be gifted a deck feels so wrong. It feels like not only a limitation and setting unnecessary boundaries around your own magical practice, but also like I rebuke, because what if you are gifted a fugly deck? What if you are gifted a deck that does not resonate with you? What if you are gifted a deck that you do not like? The imagery is just like off, the cards feel weird, like it just does not hit. Are you forced to then like work with this busted deck that isn't actually going to help illuminate or inform your practice? Are you going to feel like obligated to this thing? No. Gift yourself a deck that resonates with you. Because frankly, I don't know if I would have fallen in love as quickly with the tarot if it hadn't been for this deck that I was just so like smitten by through the symbolism and the illustrations and the lore. So don't sit around twiddling your thumbs waiting for someone to gift you a deck, okay? Get yourself a deck that you connect with. And might I recommend that if you are looking for your first deck, perhaps consider Rider-Waite-Smith for the lady, because this is just like an absolutely stunning deck. It's so great to learn on. And then all decks beyond this are really based on this deck. This is like the OG deck. It is the seminal deck. So once you understand these cards and this symbolic system, like the sky's the limit. You can do anything. You can go anywhere. It's amazing. Okay, speaking of the mythology and the lore, do you mind if we just nerd out for a second? As I have said a million times before, if your astrologer is not a nerd, get yourself a new astrologer, because you need to be a nerd to get into this, to really like love it and to intravenous it right in there so that it becomes second nature to you. I think it's really important to know also just like where your practices come from so that you can make sure that things feel comfortable for you in, you know, both a spiritual way or a religious way or just like a vibe way. So the first ever tarot decks emerged in Italy in the 15th century. But at that time, they were not used for divination or fortune telling or for predictions. They were actually used for card games. Slay. We love it. We love games. But also as above, so below, because one could argue that tarot is still a game, right? Isn't everything a game? Is life a game? Isn't the game of life to be so highbrow and so lowbrow, so sacred and so mundane, like all together, an amalgam of the absolute most and the absolute least, the most serious and the least serious? You know what I mean? Absolutely you do. You get the vibe. So that is where a lot of the imagery and the iconography came from. But we fast forward into the late 1800s, into the spiritualism movement, which was taking the United States and the UK by storm. And honey, I can tea about spiritualism literally all day. That's another episode, because spiritualism, the spiritualism movement, basically is the foundation of all things spooky ooky and mystical wistical and esoteric weric that we know and love today. All of that intrigue around like magic in the way that we practice it came from that time and came from those people who were sort of like creating this like function around the whimsy. They were taking it very seriously and codifying it. But a lot of the foundation that we know sprouted from these people who were devoting their lives to figuring out how to take the esoteric astral realms and really bring them into reality. So in the late 1880s, a group of London-based occultists got together, formed something called the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, and the whole function was to revive spirituality and mystical divination practices. Two of the co-founders, husband and wife, McGregor and Moyna Matters, they took a particular interest in tarot as their system of study. And in 1888, they published one of the early English language occult manuals that was specifically intended to systematize tarot as a divinatory and Kabbalistic technology. Now, we can talk about the Kabbalah of it all in another episode if we want to go there, but basically it was the pursuit of pulling from these mystical, ancient, esoteric traditions across various cultures as a way of creating a unified system of magic. So this book basically refers to the 22 major Arcana cards, which we have and we'll get into today, as hieroglyphics, each one connected to one of the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. And together, all of these letters form this philosophical, occult sequence. And then in this like really big, at the time, incredibly profound mic drop moment in this manual, basically the reveal is that, oh, the major arcana can actually be read as one continuous sentence, which is maybe one of the most important things to know about tarot and all mystical esoteric traditions. It's that everything that could possibly exist in the world, every possible outcome exists within these 78 cards. So it basically smashes reality down into 78 cards, which means that there are no other outcomes than what can be interpreted from looking and telling stories around this card. And you take that system and you can apply it to anything. Like whatever tool you're using for your practice becomes the entirety of the options, which means that the more options you have, the more sophisticated of an interpretation you'll be able to yield. You know, if you're just doing a coin toss and you're reducing the world to heads and tails, there's not a lot of nuance. If you're reducing the world to 78 cards, a little more nuance. But whenever you're working with a system, you have to remember that there's no outside than what exists within the container of that system. And that is the whole premise of as above, so below, right? Which is also what astrology is rooted in. And interestingly, I'm just thinking now that the Magician card, which depicts somebody, it's the card number 1 of the major arcana, it depicts a magician who has one hand raised towards the heavens, one to the earth. This card is about the premise of as above, so below, and on the table, he has all of the tools of tarot. And this is sort of the microcosm of that macrocosm of the tarot, of this greater principle that in order for you to know all of the tools that you have available, you need to allow a system to exist as the entire universe. And tarot is the microcosm that reflects the macrocosm of the human experience, just as this card becomes the microcosm of the macrocosm of tarot. Listen, honey, you didn't think that I could be that esoteric bitch? I am. Surely I am. Now, let's fast forward, because right now we still just have a manual. We don't even have cards yet. It was 20 years after that manual that another Golden Dawn occultist, Arthur Edward Waite, decided, hey, it's time for a new deck. We have so much esoteric knowledge. We're just working with these dusty cards from Italy from the 15th century. Silly us. It's time for us to get a new visual language here too. So he partnered with an artist, Pamela Coleman Smith, an illustrator, a writer. She was also a member of the Golden Dawn. And in 1909, the deck was published by William Rider and Son, hence why this deck is referred to Rider-Waite-Smith. And that's the deck. That is the deck that basically all decks come from. It was, of course, the occult framework that was embedded in the symbolism, but Pamela Colman Smith was the one who actually designed and illustrated all of these 78 cards. And because this is a visual language and all of the meaning is embedded in the imagery, it was her artwork that fundamentally transformed tarot forever. I have goosebumps, and really changed the entire landscape of how we connect the dots around our interpretation and storytelling and symbolism and these beautiful pictorial depictions of these moments and energetics in life. Okay. So the nitty gritty, 78 cards. Typically, we think of the tarot broken into two categories: the minor arcana, which refers to more sort of like mundane happenings, and the major arcana, which is, bigger picture, higher stakes situations. But I would like to argue that there are really three categories of tarot. The trilogy rages on because you do have your numbered cards, the minor arcana, ace through 10 of each suit. But then you have these court cards. And if you are hanging out with us week after week here at AstroloTea, you know that we pull court cards a lot. Court cards come up very frequently around these parts. Pages, knights, queens, kings. And frankly, I think that they deserve their own category because there's a decent amount of them. They're not nothing. And they are sort of like the bridge between the minor arcana, the short-term circumstances, and the major arcana, the big picture stuff, because the court cards sort of speak to the energies and the attitudes and the perspectives we need to pass from something that is, within the mundane into the more profound and sacred. They're these sort of like intermediary cards. And I think that for a lot of people, they can get stuck on the court cards because they're like, does that mean I need to meet a young Pisces? No, it means you need to be a young Pisces. You feel me? We're going to get into it, okay? But yes, we have these three different sections and they help us understand how to move through basically every single situation we could ever find ourselves needing to move through in life. So let's get into it, okay? When we come back, I am going to walk you through the structure of the tarot deck, starting with the four suits, the minor of it all, and then we're going to get into the astrology of it. We're going to start to figure out like why each card is placed exactly where it is and how it tells a story. So much tea, so much tea. So stay tuned. We will be right back after a very quick break. Welcome back, friends. Today we are talking about tarot, another beautiful, gorgeous system that perfectly complements our astrological practice. So we just got into the history, where it comes from, but now let's get into the ingredients, the condiments, those most delicious relishes that really make a sandwich a fucking sandwich. You know what I mean? Am I hungry? Absolutely. But that is why it is time for us to chew on this. Let us start by talking about the four suits. Now, if you know astrology, you are already very primed and prepped to understand the four suits of tarot because the minor arcana corresponds with the four elements: fire, earth, air, and water. And just like in astrology, the elements describe different dimensions of the human experience. Fire is passion, earth is the physical realm, air is the mind, our intellect, water is our emotions and intuition. So you can already understand how tarot and astrology really are speaking the same language, and we can use one system to help us go deeper into the other and vice versa. So let's start with the wands, which correspond with the element of fire, and astrologically, the fire signs Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. Wands are the cards of passion and creativity and inspiration and ambition, desire, courage, the spark of like, I gotta do something. I gotta make something happen. I'm ready to go, go, go. So wands, when we see them in tarot, tell us a story about what happens when we're lit up by our passion, by our heart, by our possibility. And then, of course, what happens if things get too hot and heavy, right? Because obviously passion can, take a turn, take a detour and get crazy. It can become impulsivity or obsession or burnout. It could become just absolute chaos. That's fire, baby. That's fire. But fire in this deck is all about how you can ignite your creativity, your lust for life, sometimes just your lust, and actually turn that into something that is one of the tools that you have access to. Now let's move over to the pentacles. The pentacles correspond to earth signs, and the earth signs are, of course, Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. Pentacles speak to the tangible, the physical realm. It's money, it's work, it's resources, it's stability, security. It's even your home, your physical body. It's everything that you can touch and maintain and sustain, and that actually has sort of like a real presence within this realm. It's like, show me the money, show me the budget, show me the spreadsheet, show me the clock, right? Like, how much time do I need to work on this? How are we turning this idea into something that is physically real? And what does that require from me? And then next up, we get into the swords, corresponding with the air element and the air signs, Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. Swords are about the mind, okay? It's thoughts, ideas, our communication, our relationships, our decisions, our beliefs, our intellect. And T, it is also anxiety. The swords speak to things that we think are happening, but might not actually be happening. Because what happens when you start to spin out, right? The mind starts going and going and going. Suddenly it's 3:00 in the morning. You're replaying a conversation from 2017, wondering whether that person secretly hates you. And what do you know? We actually have a card for that. We have a card for that. It's the 9 of Swords, depicting somebody who is up at night, stressed out, hands over their face, they're bugging, and it's 9 swords over their head, right? So we can see those energies and the good, the bad, and the ugly of these different elements showing up within the system as both tools that we can work with and also tools that can ouch, hurt us, the things we need to watch out for. And then finally, we have the cups. And the cups correspond with water. Water goes in a cup. And also the astrological signs, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. Cups are about the emotional world. So it's about intimacy and love and intuition, imagination, sensitivity, dreams, yearning, longing, grief, connection, all of that beautiful stuff that lives in our hearts, in our astral bodies, in our feelings about the world. So cups are the pursuit of understanding what is going on beneath the surface, what our intuition is trying to communicate with us, and how we actually feel about what is going on in our life. So there you have it. Boom. To recap, Wands is associated with fire, passion, Pentacles associated with earth, resources, Swords associated with air, matters of the mind, and Cups associated with water, emotional, intuitive things. Bam! You already are an expert. Done. That is the architecture of the minor arcana. And now within each of these 4 suits, we have a sequence. Each one of these suits has 14 cards in it, ace through 10, and then we have those court cards that we'll talk about separately. But there's 14 cards that are associated with each element. And right now, let's just take a second to talk about ace through 10, because those numbered ones are really quite significant. So we always start with the aces of the suits. And in this deck, in Rider-Waite-Smith, these are depicted always with a hand, a disembodied hand holding up that element, a hand holding a wand, a hand holding a pentacle, money, a hand holding a sword, a hand holding a cup. The imagery, the symbolism, the iconography is so incredibly rich. It would require many, many an episode to get into all of the nuances of what each card entails and speaks to. But what you need to know about the aces broadly is that the aces are our understanding of that element on a fundamental, foundational level. And the fact that there's no person in these, right? It's just a hand with a tool is just here's the good, the bad, the ugly of this energy, of this expression. It is pure, concentrated, elemental energy before it has been manipulated in any way, shape, or form. It's inspiration. It's an opportunity. It's an idea. It's a feeling, right? These ace cards just like get us oriented, get us started, and just give us the permission to exist and understand that that tool is available to us. And this is what we need to do with it. Like what we need to do with it, we are going to figure out, but here's the tool in its most raw, untouched form. And then from there, the numbers take us on this journey, this sort of developmental cycle as we understand the experience of working with these different tools. All of the different suits have a 2, and 2 is the beginning of us visualizing a quest. So we'll see that depicted across all of these different images, right? What does a 2 look like from a wand's perspective, from a pentacles perspective, from a sword's perspective, from a cup's perspective? It's really the idea of like, okay, something is getting started. What's the first step I'm going to take? And then we get into the 3s. And the 3s are the cards that show us how we can start to take action around what those possibilities are. In the wand's perspective, it's like I need a couple of walking sticks if I'm going to go so far into this unknown horizon. From the pentacles perspective, it's like I need people to believe in my work. From the swords perspective, and 3 of swords is, a very feared card a lot of the time. It has to do with like, okay, am I willing to put myself intellectually in a situation where I can get hurt and have an idea that doesn't work out? Am I willing to try? And then from the 3 of cups, it's like, yeah, get with your friends, have a party, feel your emotions with the people that you can trust your emotions with. The 4s are all about establishing structure and strength and stability. And again, we see that depicted differently across the different suits. 5s are major. Okay, 5s are major because 5s are the midpoint of the story. So 5s are full moon energy. If you know, listen to the episode on the phases, because 5s introduce us to conflict and obstacles, hardship, instability. It's the halfway point in this journey. It's the moment where things maybe derail a little bit. They stop going according to plan. And therefore, we have to confront situations that may feel like they have taken us off course, but we need our tools to help us get back on track. 6 is the integration of whatever we learn from that disruption, whether we are restoring harmony, whether we are finding success, we achieved something, right? That's the 6 of wands. We got the wreath, we won. Or maybe 6 of swords. We actually have to get out of here. We need to leave. Things are not as they were before. The 7s bring another layer of challenge or strategy or unnecessary discernment or wisdom into the fold that really we could only access after we have gone through whatever we have gone through. 7 of cups, such an interesting card. It's literally somebody who's like, I'm not sure which choice I should make. Some of these cups have gems and castles in them. Some have like snakes and scary mythological creatures. And one is a person with their hands out covered by a cloth. I have no idea what's going on with that. So what should I select? So it's about using your intuition and figuring out how discernment is going to play a role in wherever you are in that quest. Then we get into the 8s. We're getting serious, okay? We are focused on movement, commitment, growth, getting it done. Things are coming into view or they're not, right? With the 8 of swords, somebody is literally blindfolded and tied up around these other swords. But remember, this is from an anxiety state of mind, feeling trapped, feeling like they can't move forward. And then we would ask, why do you feel that way? What's going on? What is making you feel like this late in the game, you don't have options? And then the 9s, the penultimate card. So the 9s are the perspective, right? We're almost at the end. So now we're looking back and understanding what this experience has taught us. Has it taught us how to persevere? As we see in the wand suit? Has it taught us that we just really want to be rich and have like a beautiful garden and feel like we can take care of ourselves as it does in the pentacles? Has it taught us that like we can still have nightmares and still be this late in the game, and that's part of the human experience? Has it taught us in this cups way to actually take our intuition and our emotions seriously and, hey, actually like put them on display because they have gotten you this far? And then finally, 10. 10 completes the journey. We have reached the fullest expression, which means we are at the ending. But every ending, of course, is also a beginning, which we see so much in this very feared 10 of Swords card. Somebody who is literally just like RIP'd with the swords. But this means that your perspective has changed. What you thought you knew, you have recognized is no longer serving you, and it is over, it is done, and we have a new horizon that is coming up over the east now. 10 of Wands, like, wow, you had a lot of stuff on your plate, and you still have a lot of stuff on your plate, but that's having passion, right? That's being somebody who is very creative and has a lot of things that they want to do and accomplish and achieve. Like, sorry, hun, like it is heavy. And this is the journey. Or like generational wealth, 10 of Pentacles, okay, go off. Or, you know, pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. 10 of Cups, a happy family dancing because their emotions and intuition was actually the divine connection that they needed. This is one of my favorite ways to understand tarot because this gives you permission to not have to memorize every single card. You don't have to memorize every single 78 card like it's a flashcard. You don't have to think about these definitions singularly. You can think about them sequentially, and you can understand the symbolic language as it unfolds over time. So once you understand what the suit is saying and what that number is and where it places you in the journey, you could start putting the pieces together and actually start reading the card as part of a story. So for example, if we know that 5 is about conflict, finding ourselves in a position where we are getting outside external circumstances that are informing where we are. And then the Swords is the mind. 5 of Swords is telling us about maybe we're having a mental conflict, or maybe we're having an argument. Maybe there's a miscommunication. Maybe we are perceiving people who were our friends as no longer being our friends, and that's throwing us off. Maybe it's about tension, whether that tension is real or it's in our imagination, like we have to discuss, right? Like this is a card that is pointing to those types of narratives. Or let's dive into this 10 of Pentacles, this generational wealth. We see this old man basically like absorbed into the garden and the ecosystem, and then 2 adults and then a baby, and then there's 2 like very cute dogs, whippets, I think. And they're in a castle. There's the tower that we end up seeing collapse. We'll get to that. But this is really the culmination of hard work. From a financial perspective, it's about building wealth and legacy and something that takes time to really cultivate. So what we're doing is we're thinking about each card as its own narrative, and we're also thinking about each card as it relates to stories in your life. Like where in your life are you within this story, and how does this card give you a different perspective on this situation that you're navigating right now? But the fun doesn't stop there, because then we get into the court cards that are associated with each suit. And as I mentioned earlier, I think that the court cards deserve their own little category because they function differently than the numbered cards. They help us understand what attitude is going to benefit us the most and how we should approach the situation. Or maybe what attitude is not benefiting us and what we need to change. So they don't represent people as much as they represent personality types, personality attributes that we can generate, that we can embody, things that are going to help us get a better sense of how we relate to the situation. Every suit has a page, and I've said before that if I were Pamela Coleman Smith, I would make these babies. I would put baby faces on all of the pages, but that would be scary in a different kind of deck. So maybe it's best that I was not Pamela Coleman Smith. But the pages are, very youthful energy. It's curious, it's fascinated, it's open, it's inexperienced, it's eager to learn. I always say say it's fuckboy energy. It's like, oh, I love that. And then also it's kind of like, okay, never mind, next idea, next thing. But it's really sort of like it's the essence of being interested in something, initially intrigued by something. The first time that we're like, oh, that's cool. Oh, that's an interesting idea. Oh, Page of Wands, I can wear a cool outfit. Oh, Page of Pentacles, that's money. Oh, Page of Swords, I have ideas. Oh, Page of Cups, there's a fish coming out of my cup. And that makes me think that I'm a poet. T. And then we move on to the Knights, which are also young, but not as young as the Pages. This is like our virile young adult friends. They're enthusiastic. They are determined. They're impulsive. They're a little aggro, especially the Knight of Swords. Watch out for him. But the Knights show us how we can take that suit, how we can take that energy and actually put it into motion, put it to work and do something with it. The Queens are the energy around refinement. There is a mastery around these cards. Obviously, they have a feminine energy associated with them too. Inherently, there is something creative and expressive and generative about these queens, these lovely ladies over here. And we see lots of different queens and lots of different types of queens. We see queens that really want to be seen and noticed, Queen of Wands. We see queens that are obsessed with what they have, Queen of Pentacles. We see queens that are not here to play, Queen of Swords. And then we see Queen of Cups, like a queen that is just living out her fantasies. Like her cup is a very strange creature. Is it even real? We don't know because she is in a realm of her own, which makes sense when you meet her husband coming up next. The final court cards are the Kings. The Kings represent authority and expertise and leadership, seniority. It's like the fullest command of that suit. It's what happens when you build an entire ecosystem around that tool, that concept. The King can become very egoic, right? The King of Wands is very decked out, but also like isn't even making eye contact with us, like doesn't even care what we think. The King of Pentacles has become consumed by his relationship with resources. The King of Swords, is also, very stern, very serious, is sort of like mansplaining us somehow. But, if you pull this card and if this is the energy for you to embody, it's you being like, I'm not hearing I don't want it, no funny business, I want to know the facts, show me the spreadsheet or get out of here. And then, as I always say, the King of Cups, the freak-a-leak, the King of Cups is so strange, not even connected to the earthly realm at all, floating on his throne in the middle of the sea. So this is someone who's just created an entire kingdom around their intuition and psychic abilities and feelings, which is good for him, bad for all of us who are like, hey, King, like, can you come back to land, please? King says, no, I'm out to lunch indefinitely, gone fishing forevermore. So everything that we have talked about so far, the 4 suits, the numbered journey, Ace through 10, the court cards, these freak-a-leaks, this is all the minor arcana. These cards describe the situations, the behaviors, the choices, the feelings, the conflicts, the circumstances that inform our day-to-day life, our relationships within our day-to-day life, the things that we have to do and experience as we move through, Monday through Friday, obligations, how we live our best life on the weekends, right? This is the normal world. This is your normal world, right? This is how you function and survive the everyday of it all. But then there are 22 cards that are doing something very different. There are 22 cards that are saying, actually, we are going to interrupt your normalcy. Actually, we have a different story to tell. Actually, you're going to want to put your listening ears on because this is major. And when we come back, we are going to get into the major arcana, the big baddies and daddies. These cards don't just describe what's happening in the now. They are not talking about your life today. They are telling, well, actually one enormous fucking story about what it means to move through your life, get interrupted, get thrown off course, fuck around, find out, come back around again, live, die, heal, recover, and that's all in a day's work. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after a very quick break. Hello, friends. Welcome back. We have arrived at the major arcana. We just went over the minor arcana, which included the court cards. We talked about the 4 suits. And now we are going to find ourselves cruising through a different sequence. We are talking about the major arcana, which is zooming us way, way, way out because these cards are speaking to major life milestones. They're speaking to transformations. They're speaking to Joseph Campbell archetypes, big picture lessons that shape who we become on a karmic level. Is it tea? You bet your bottom dollar it is. These 22 major arcana cards, beginning with the Fool, which is number 0, and that take us all the way to the World, which is number 21. And just as a reminder, as we talked about at the beginning of this episode, one of the most critical and foundational occult frameworks is recognizing that the tarot is an entire universe. This is a continuous philosophical sequence. And it's so important to remember that, right? Because the major arcana can really be understood as one's own life and death cycle, one's own mythological story. We have to be willing to begin. It's the Fool. It's the Fool's journey. It's giving Joseph Campbell. It's our protagonist. It's us. It's you. Despite the name, the Fool is no idiot. It is no joke. This is the card of courage and bravery. This is the card that kicks off the whole thing. This is about possibility. This is about wherever you are, starting over again. So as we begin with 0, the Fool, we find ourselves standing at the edge of a cliff. We are preparing to step into the unknown. So this card, the Fool, represents beginnings and innocence and freedom and adventure. You being brave and saying yes, right? Even if you don't know where this journey is going, how could you know, right? You're about to step off of a cliff, diva, but you got to do it, because if you don't make that initial step, if you don't take that leap, we can't even get going. We can't get started. And then because you took that leap, yes, you did, we find ourselves with card number 1, the Magician. The Magician has all 4 suits of the minor arcana, the wand, the cup, the sword, the pentacle, at the table. And this means you have all the resources. You have all the agency. You know what you need to do. Do you know what you need to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do with what you have on your table? So this is the card of manifestation and willpower, capability, but also figuring out, like, choose your weapon, right? Like, find your discernment so you use the right tool at the correct time. Which then yeets us over to the High Priestess, which is in tarot world actually kind of a T card to pull, because when you pull the High Priestess, the card is like, you know what you need to know. This is about your intuition. And you're like, bitch, I know. I'm still asking. I'm still trying to get some more perspective on this. Like, hello. But that's a little tarot humor, because the High Priestess is really about mystery and intuition, the unconscious, things that are embedded into the magic of esotericism. The High Priestess is about, like, turning inward, the pursuit of turning inward and exploring what do you know from this sort of like ancient mystical perspective. Like, what is your spirituality telling you? And it also is here to help you start to figure out what mission you're on right now. And then we get to the Empress, the Venus card. There's literally the Venus symbol right there at her throne. The Empress is the card that's associated with fertility and abundance and creativity and sensuality and nature and nourishment, the ability to bring something into existence and watch it grow. She also has like the most beautiful headdress in all of tarot. It's the Hedy Lamarr headdress. If you know, you know. But it's really like being one part connected to the heavens, the celestial magic of it all, and then also like very deeply rooted in what you are bringing into this realm. And then the Emperor, which introduces us to structure, authority, boundaries, stability, order, protection. He's not playing around. If the Empress was about like creation, the Emperor says, do it. This is the Aries card. And now we're going to start to see the direct one-to-one associations between planets and zodiac signs and the tarot cards. And we see this already very literally because the Emperor has rams on every single corner of his throne. This is giving like my way or the highway. Listen, if you don't like the way I'm doing it here, get the hell out. And then we get to the Hierophant, the Taurus card. This is associated with bigger systems than ourselves. It's about tradition and rules and institutions and learned wisdom and how we can actually build structure around what we are trying to create. At the Hierophant's feet are the gates to heaven. So it really is through discipline that we can start to figure out how to enhance and improve our realities. This card is asking for not just structure, but like a true practice, a true reverence in whatever it is that you're exploring. And then we get to the Gemini card, the Lovers, which is, yes, absolutely about romance and partnership and connection and attraction. Like you'd love to see it in a relationship reading, but it's also about finding yourself reflected in the circumstances that mirror you in the best light. It's who you are in relation to the conditions of your circumstances and the world around you. It's what happens when you actually can find that sort of divine connection, and that elevates you and helps you reach new heights that you didn't have access to on your own. Which brings us to the Chariot, the Cancer card. I mused about the Chariot so much during summer solstice because this card is really the essence of summer solstice. It's about being sort of like protected within this celestial container as we feel and experience through the sign of Cancer, you know, the protection of the moon, the protection of Mother. The Chariot is someone who is about to get going, determined, ambitious, forward moving, but is also incredibly armed, incredibly armored, somebody who has sort of resourced themselves to know that whatever they get themselves into, they are going to be safe within their vessel, that they are contained within their spiritual systems, within their emotional truths, within their mother's bosom. Not to mention that I explored the relationship between summer solstice and Cancer, which is ruled by the moon. But summer solstice is about like maximum time and the spiritual downloads that we can receive when we have the time to receive them. And I was thinking about the Bhagavad Gita and how that whole story takes place at the Chariot. So the Chariot is really the space that we find ourselves stepping into our spiritual potential, which makes sense for what comes next, which is Strength, the Leo card. This is when we discover that power isn't just about force. It's not just about physical strength. It's not just about being buff. It really is about knowing how to combine your emotional strength with your spiritual strength and your physical strength too. This card is about courage and patience and self-command. It's about learning how to tame the lion. It's about learning how to work with the parts of yourself that are wild and figure out when you can sort of act on that sort of ferocity, and then when you also need to find that level and that calm and that peace to know when it is no longer actually serving you. And for my midsummer fans out here, you'll notice that the figure in the Strength card is wearing like that traditional midsummer flower headdress and outfit, and it's giving horror. But also it's like that moment where, you know, it's where we are at midsummer, we are late in the season, and we are sort of like beginning to take it all in and figure out like, where do I go from here? And then it's the Hermit. We're going up the mountain. It's Virgo time. It's Virgo season. This is our Virgo season card. The Hermit is like, okay, got it. I've learned a lot. I need to retreat so that I can like figure out what to do with this information. It's about introspection and solitude and wisdom and searching, the choice to temporarily step away from the noise so that you can really spend time with your own light within, your own lantern, and find that depth and that integration that you have been seeking. So, this journey is one that we find ourselves in a moment of deep contemplation. But spin that wheel and you don't know where you're going to end up. Card number 10, Wheel of Fortune. It's the Jupiter card. So we're breaking from our zodiacal journey with Jupiter, Casino Daddy, as we would. Hey, the wheel turns, the circumstances change, fate intervenes, something's gonna happen. Is it good? Is it bad? We just don't know. The Wheel of Fortune is about cycles and destiny and change and luck and timing and things that happen when we least expect them. So it is about movement, and risk. Casino Daddy, hello. But then, you need to face the court of law. After what just happened, you're going to need to talk to the justice. That is the next card, card number 11, the Justice card associated with Libra. Choices have consequences. Actions have reactions. What is fair? What is true? What's the cause and effect here? And this is the moment where we have to think about what the hell we did and what is our relationship to what the hell we did. We are no longer just innocent anymore, right? We've made some choices, we've done some things, and now we have to really think about who is holding the scales. It's the Hanged Man. So that didn't go well, right? The Hanged Man, the next card, suspends everything. You cannot keep moving forward the way you have been moving. So with the Hanged Man, we need to stop, surrender, wait, and see things from a different point of view. The Hanged Man offers a perspective shift that says these old ways are not going to cut it anymore. But sometimes before you can take action on this new way forward, you need to hang upside down for a minute. But don't worry, because you have a halo over your head, so you're divinely guided. You're all good. Everything's fine. But you just need to flip the POV and see things differently, maybe differently than you ever have before. Not to mention that this card does allude to Jupiter because the Hanged Man is making the Jupiter shape with his body. Again, the symbolism, it's thick, okay? It's another episode to get into the minutia of every single card symbolism. That really didn't go well though. Card number 13, Death. Ugh. I know this is a scary card. Everyone gets very scared when they see the Death card, but it does not mean a physical death. The likelihood of that is just too low. We get this card more than we die, right? This card represents transformation and endings, release, transition. A fundamental change has happened after we saw the world from a different point of view, a la the Hanged Man. Something must end, perhaps even emotionally, in order for a new version to bloom, something else to grow. It should come as no surprise that this Death card, riding on a white horse, is associated with Scorpio. Hey, Scorpio can handle it. And then we're an angel. It's Temperance. After Death comes Temperance, traditionally associated with Sagittarius. This is the card of integration, high spirituality, high philosophy, also sobriety, which is T. We have definitely gone through something transformative, and now we have to figure out what to do with it. Temperance is about balance and healing and patience and alchemy. It's really about taking those different ingredients, taking those different experiences, that wisdom, different versions of you, and blending it into something new, a brand new potion, a brand new concoction. So sip it up, but be careful because the next card is the Devil. Who is this? This is another card that people get scared of. It's associated with Capricorn, T, but this card is about our attachments and our temptations. What owns us, baby? Obsession, power, desire, lust. Low-key, j'adore this card. I mean, definitely this is the addiction card, so we have to be careful with that, but it also is the lust for life card. And I think from a Capricorn POV, it really shines a light on the lesser discussed side of Capricorn, which is like the wildness of them. The fact that like they also, have their own sort of like freak on a leak quality. Have you ever seen a Capricorn dancing on a table, taking tequila shots? I have. It's wild. But the Devil does introduce us to the shadow parts of life, our shadow selves. And it makes us have conversations about like the ties that bind, the chains that are tethering us, and whether or not they're loose enough to remove them, as they are in this card, or if we are sort of cosplaying being stuck in situations because we're kind of into the torture of it all. What? Well, from here, we do find ourselves in another crisis point. It is the Tower card. Ooh, it is a massive disruption, okay? It's a revelation, it's a collapse, lightning bolts hitting a structure that was built on a mountain peak. Who would do that? Who's the architect? Silly head, this isn't right. And the Tower speaks to a system or a structure that is absolutely burning down, burning to the ground because it was never built to last. It was never stable. It was not something real. It was false. It was cracking beneath the surface already, right? The crown is flying off. The ego has been shattered. And it is indeed time for this structure to fall because it was not working. Even if you thought it was working, it's not working, and we need something new. Honey, we need hope. But the darkest hour is just before dawn, and after such chaos, such destruction, we have the Star card, the beautiful star. After, this horrible, grisly scene, we find ourselves in a space of renewal and healing and faith. The sky opens back up again. It's the Aquarius card. The star is a reminder that everything is about healing, not just healing on a personal level, but being able to also satiate the land through a collective healing. You are still here. You still exist. The land still exists, the stars still exist, water still exists, God willing. And this gives us an opportunity to start over and to start over better, to go beyond what we had previously lost and to move into a space that is actually beneficial, not just for you, but for the collective, for humanity at large. And then that moves us into the moon. The moon, the Pisces card. The moon is a card of dreams and intuition, fear, the unconscious. I love this card so much. It depicts a domestic dog and a wolf both howling at this full moon. And it's a symbol of the fact that these two halves exist within both of us, right? Like we have our tamed side and we have our feral side, and we all sort of succumb to the surrender of magic and intuition and emotions and the unknown forces. So like none of us actually can find our way to logic ourselves out of these like big feelings sometimes. So have the big feelings, get crazy, get wild big feelings. And that's also the Pisces of it all, right? Is like the wildness of our emotions. And then the sun. Oh, the sun. It's illumination, it's vitality, it's joy, it's success, it's achievement, it's clarity. The sun reveals the daytime. We had to sort of build a whole universe all over again. And now finally we have the light of the sun to see, to be nourished by, to find our presence, our sense of ego around, to build up an identity after what we have just gone through. And we're a baby and we're riding that same white horse back into the sun after we were on it with the death card. Like we are renewed. We are starting over. This is an incredible return to aliveness. And then it's Judgment Day. Whoop. Sorry, we're back in it. It's card number 20. It's an awakening. It's a reckoning. It's the call. And judgment is the invitation for us to really think about everything that we have gone through and figure out what it was worth. What does that story mean? Who are you now because of everything that you have just experienced? What are you being called towards? Because now you can't unknow what you have learned, right? So who are you? And are you willing to be back on this cycle again? Well, the final card, card number 21, our Saturn card says you don't have a fucking choice because every cycle is contained within this story, and every cycle is a circle, and every circle is a cycle, and everything starts over again. The journey has reached its conclusion, or has it? And all of these disparate experiences are now one whole world, one whole universe. The Fool is the zero, right? We see that reflected in that same circle, cycle shape. And this card is about the totality of everything, creation and destruction and love and loss and fate and risk and punishment and rewards and hope and uncertainty and illumination and awakening. It's the totality of everything. The world is also the microcosm of the entire deck, the entire story. And when you get this card, It is a completion and it is also a beginning. But it's not over. It's never over, because then we go back to zero, back to start, back to the Fool. And that is it, right? We keep going round and round. That's tarot, that's life, that's karma. Once we finish one journey, we immediately find ourselves back at that cliff point, carrying everything that we had learned, but once again, facing something that we had never experienced before. And we are constantly moving through these archetypes, moving through these cycles at different scales, right? Sometimes they are these little tiny mini rotations, even just a 24-hour clock. And sometimes there are these massive life transitions, like peppered with tower card moments. Maybe we're in like multi-year long hermit eras, right? Sometimes we're in the sun and we're in this moment of like, it's me. Look at me. Watch me go. This is beautiful, right? Like, so take a minute to think about what archetype is resonating with you right now. What moment are you in? Thinking about all of the cards, thinking about the story. Obviously, we can use tarot for fortune telling, divination, what's going to happen, does he love me? But this is something so much bigger than that. This is the human experience. And the minor arcana are the circumstances. The major arcana are those big, enormous punctuation opportunities within the archetypical journey that we're all on. But in its totality, this is about telling stories and really diving into the moment of the narrative that you are in right now. And this is why looking at tarot, especially at a moment like this in the eclipse season portal, is just like perfect. It's the perfect way to explore where you are in space and time. In case it wasn't clear, there are no bad tarot cards, okay? I don't want to see anyone panicking around pulling the Devil card or pulling the Five of Cups, right? Like, all cards are a totality. All cards have their light and their shadow properties to it. Even the Sun, right? Like, this is also an egomaniac. So whenever you feel yourself getting too stuck in a binary of a positive or negative, remember that all cards are everything. All cards are the full experience of what that expression can offer and how it can give you depth and a deeper connection to that symbol, to that moment, to that attitude, to that energy. Everything is beautiful. Everything is connected. The tarot is life. What do you think about today's episode? Did you like learning about the tarot? Was this tea? It was tea. Was it your kind of cup? Let me know what you learned, what resonated, what breakthroughs you had. Let me know in those 5-star reviews. Let me know in your comments. And of course, tell your friends. Tell your friends about AstroloTea. We'd love to have them here. They're always invited to the tea parties on Wednesdays and our weekly brews on Mondays. And I'll be back, of course, on Monday. But make sure you get your tickets to the show. Tickets are going fast, and I don't want you to miss out because you're gonna love it. So head over to alizakelly.com/events, find the city near you or the city that you would like to be in for the show, because you can also travel. Hello. And I'll see you there, and I'll see you on Monday, and I'll see you. You know where to find me everywhere, Spotify, Apple, YouTube. See you soon. Bye.